I'm not going to defend the collateral damage. I'm going to explain why I'm voting for the human bulldozer because of existential issues. And again, to me, it comes down to Trump versus mobocracy, Trump versus the cancel culture, Trump versus social anarchy.
Well, I've got Dr. Michael Brown right now with me, and I got to say, Dr. Brown, Mike Huckabee says you're his favorite writer on the stream, and I just admire you and thank God for it. Let me tell you, I spoke to Secretary Pompeo. I actually had a visit with him and with Dr. Tony Evans at Jack Graham's church, Prestonwood. He did a great job giving his testimony, and as he was leaving, I referred him to what Huckabee had just said. This is probably the best 4 minutes I've ever done in my life. What Michael Brown did is incredible. And we put that interview with you and Mike Huckabee on the stream. Those of you who are listening now, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. But I told Secretary Pompeo, you got to watch it. He said, the minute I get on a plane, I'm watching it. And I got to believe he did. You had to enjoy your time with Mike Huckabee. Of course, you know we're good friends.
Yeah, wonderful. You've given me the history there and the introduction. Yeah, we had a great time. In fact, when I met him before the show, he said, oh, yeah, James and I have been texting back and forth about you being on the air tonight. So it was a delight on every front.
Well, I love him. Don't you think he's a statesman?
He's got, I love his demeanor. He's very relaxing to be with. And, on the show, he had a magician on doing a spot, and I was talking to his producer, and he said, yeah, it's important. He wants every show to have inspiration, information, and entertainment. So it was really nice.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you were the highlight. Here's the thing that I want to mention now about you've written a book, Evangelicals at the Crossroads, and really it's Christians at the Crossroads. I wish we weren't dividing people into all these different blocks. It's like tribes and camps, and it has to make our Father in heaven a little weary of it. But since evangelicals catch a lot of the heat and the criticism, sometimes get some credit for something, you talked about us being, so let's just say, Christians at the crossroads. I'm going to say Americans at the crossroad. I believe we're choosing between freedom or bondage. And I think it'll be the most miserable type of bondage in history. And you say, will Christians pass the Trump test, which is, you're saying, the choice made on the 3rd. And with all my heart, Dr. Brown, I believe we're choosing between life and death, left, right, meaning right or wrong, literally, and we're choosing whether or not freedom has a future. I believe it's that serious, and you think people need to understand how they look at Trump. He's not our Savior. He's not the hope. But boy, Christians need to choose wisely. You address that, how Christians need to think, how everybody that loves freedom needs to think.
For me, the essence of the Trump test is, can we vote for Trump? And for me, it's a no-brainer when it comes to Trump versus where the Democrat Party is now, Trump versus the mobocracy, the cancel culture, the radical left, the tyranny of China, all the issues, the international issues, the national issues, abortion, religious freedom, on and on. On the one hand, to me, the vote is a no-brainer. Can we vote for him and maintain our testimony before a watching world at the same time? That to me is a big part of the Trump test, because on the one hand, no one has done more for the evangelical cause than Donald Trump. All the things he stood for. Look, you know the problems I had with him during the primaries. You had similar problems. I remember when you called me and said, Michael, more is going on here. I think we need to look at this again, because I thought he's going to betray evangelicals. He's going to throw us under the bus. The conservative Christians from all backgrounds that vote for him, once he's in office, he's going to forget about him. He's a carnal, narcissistic guy. We can't trust him. Well, he's been amazingly trustworthy on the one hand. He's done more for our causes. I mean, speaks at the March for Life, moves the embassy to Jerusalem, brokering peace in the Middle East, doing things we never thought. Department of Justice now fighting for liberties of the churches during the COVID crisis. He's done more for our causes than anyone. But when we identify with him the wrong way, when we become apologists for Trump, that hurts our witness, that hurts our cause. So can we vote for him while maintaining our witness? I believe we can. And we do it by laying out the issues and saying, look, great speech at Mount Rushmore. Wonderful. Great civil rights speech, but you don't need to be tweeting about Bubba Wallace the next moment. So we can say as believers, yeah, character does count. Morality does matter. So where Trump acts in carnal ways, that does hurt things. We acknowledge that. But the reason that we vote is for XYZ. So I preach Jesus. I don't preach Trump. I preach Jesus crucified, not Trump elected. That's my message. Jesus died for my sins. I owe him my life, my heart, my soul, my mind. He's my all in all. I vote for the president. Let's put things in the right categories and then recognize that at very best, 4 more years of Donald Trump will not save America. Rather, it's like a wedge in the door before that door closes on many things that are precious to us here in America. And that, to me, gives the Church of America 4 more years to give ourselves to God, revival, changing hearts. So we want to flip the courts, but we want to change hearts even more. So Trump does his part, we do our part.
You know, I remember you and I were talking a lot during the campaign when there were 17 candidates to begin with. I knew 10 of them. Well, many of them for a lifetime. Huckabee, I bought him his first suits, and his first job was here. And so I obviously loved him. Ben Carson is calling me Dad. Rick Perry started listening to me when he was 9 years old. But I told you while we were working with, really in many ways, Ted Cruz, and it was kind of boiling down to the end, I did tell you that because Mr. Trump had opened the door, I was able to spend a lot of time with him, travel with him, be close, talk to him. And I told you that I believed he was listening. And I could tell that wisdom and truth seemed to get his attention. Do you remember me telling you that?
Oh, yeah. You were the one. There were the prophetic words about Trump being elected that had me wondering. I was on my knees saying, Lord, I don't see it. I respect these brothers. They're friends of mine. I just don't see it. And then you called me and you said, Michael, something else is going on. I remember you texted me and said, I'm about to spend an hour with Mr. Trump. Pray. And afterwards, I remember your words that in 55 years of ministry, no one has ever received you with more of an open listening heart than Donald Trump. So I don't know him, but I know you and I trust you. That got me to step back and reevaluate it. That was the key thing.
I remember Jack Hayford saying to me, among the most profound words Jesus ever said that may be difficult for us to fully comprehend, he said, if they receive you, they receive me. I said, even right up to the election, in my nearly 60 years now of ministry, way over 50 years in, 55 years public ministry, no one has ever received me more openly, more totally, more respectfully than Donald Trump. This is before he was president. Now, 4.5 years later, since he first received me, continued to receive, Michael Brown, he continues to receive with indescribable gratitude. He is, and I told him when the very morning that he accepted again the nomination, when he did it there from the White House, I said, sir, you are the most courageous, and then something you wouldn't expect, the most teachable national leader I've ever known, and fearless and tireless. And I want to thank you. Now, for me to say he's teachable, and the people around him, I asked Pompeo, with Jack Graham sitting there by me, and Tony Evans right by me, and Betty on this side, I said, does this president want to do what's best for every American and for the black community, pointing at Tony, and for minorities? And Secretary Pompeo said, with every fiber of his being. And I believe that. And everyone I know close to him, whether it's Ben Carson or Secretary Rick Perry, who was, as you know, Energy Secretary, did a tremendous job, still loves this president, he is committed to trying to find what's best for America. I don't think the decision about which way we vote should be difficult for serious Christians. What do you think?
Yeah, when it comes to the issues, when it comes to the things that we're actually voting for, when you look at the policies and the platforms, Republican versus Democrat, when you look at just key things, be it abortion, one wanting to overturn Roe v. Wade, the other wanting to enshrine Roe v. Wade, one of them barely mentioning religion, but mentioning LGBT and trans dozens and dozens of times, the other one talking about freedom of religion and conscience. And the question is, what ultimately will help more Americans? So I would wish that Donald Trump conducted himself in different ways, didn't call this one a dog, didn't throw this one under the bus, but we're dealing with existential issues here for the good of America and the nations. I was in Australia right before the COVID crisis shut down travel. My driver picking me up from the airport was from China, and he had moved over to Australia, become a citizen. I said, what do you think of President Xi and the state of things in China? He goes, very, very bad, very dangerous. I'm trying to get my parents out of there. I said, what do you think of President Trump? He goes, he's a hero. So, the protesters in Hong Kong that he's standing up for, they're not really concerned about the fact that he could be obnoxious and juvenile and thin-skinned. And the people in Iran that perhaps might get some freedom if the Islamic regime can be toppled there just through the pressure of the people and economic things, I don't think they're really concerned with it. So you have basically a human bulldozer in the White House taking things on that none of us can imagine. We can't imagine the pressure from the media, from the political establishment, from all different sides, from international pressure, spiritual pressure. None of us have ever been in that seat. We can't imagine. So you've got a human bulldozer there. That's what was needed for the hour, but there's collateral damage. So I'm not going to defend the collateral damage. I'm going to explain why I'm voting for the human bulldozer because of existential issues. And again, to me, it comes down to Trump versus mobocracy, Trump versus the cancel culture, Trump versus social anarchy. And I want to be able to see a world, as God gives us time, in which my grandkids, they're all teenagers now, yours are older, in which they can raise their children with essential freedoms, where there's dignity and sanctity in life. I mean, look at the furor now over the possibility that Ruth Bader Ginsburg would be replaced by someone like Amy Coney Barrett, a devout Catholic pro-lifer. I mean, that possibility, and the left is talking about apocalypse and Armageddon. That's how much the abortion culture is entrenched. We can really see change come, but what we have to do is keep our priorities right. We preach Jesus, we vote for Trump. We proclaim one is our Savior and put our hope in him, and then we work with the president for the betterment of America. To me, it's a very, very simple choice. And the fears I had the first time around, yeah, there have been problems, Trump being Trump. I don't deny those or minimize those, but the hopes I had, he's lived up to, and he's exceeded them. And the biggest thing was keeping his promise to conservative Christians, keeping his promise to that base that helped him get elected. I would have guaranteed you during the primaries, he'll never do it. He's not even a politician. He's worse than a politician. He's a New York businessman who made his money on casinos and strip clubs and did the Miss America pageant and boasted of his adultery. You're going to trust him? And look at who God uses. Look at who God uses to be the most trustworthy to conservative Christians of any president we've had. Who would have figured it?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I will be 77 in October before this election. In my lifetime, I have never seen a president do more meaningful for America. And I loved and was close to President Reagan and to other presidents. But I'm telling you, Dr. Brown, no one has done more for the things that matter to Christians than this man. Just like saying to 6,000 of us in Miami earlier this year, I'm going to give you your voice back. He has given us our voice back, and he doesn't want anybody silencing any voice in the public schools or the public square or at any university, any place. And so he has done so much for freedom. It's been like a miracle, and I am so grateful. And I say this over and over, and I won't stop saying it. It's answered prayer. God promised to answer prayer. He doesn't always use the vessel or instrument we would think best, but he answers our prayer. And this man has been an answer to prayer. Will you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And otherwise, again, we see where things easily could have gone in the culture. Just look now at, say, the state of Nevada that said if you're a casino, you can operate at 50% capacity. If you're a church with a sanctuary that seats 3,000, you can't have more than 50 people. Then a church holds a meeting in a casino and the casino gets fined for it. Well, the Department of Justice is saying that's not right. That's discrimination. You're in the state of California. You could go ahead and protest and march down the streets for a civil rights issue. But if you come into a church gathering, you can't even sing. You can't have a Bible study in your home. Department of Justice saying that's not right. We've got folks fighting for us. And what I found, James, so interesting when I wrote Evangelicals at the Crossroads, I sent some chapters to a friend of mine who's an editor with a major Christian publisher, and he's a never Trumper. He read the chapters and he said, I'm voting for Trump because I laid things out. In other words, I lay out the argument against Trump. I lay out why Christians have a problem with Trump. I lay out the media attacks on Trump. You know, from the world in the church, I lay it out, then I lay out the other side, and then I lay out the larger issues. Even ask, what if Hillary had been elected? Where would we be right now? Not to demonize her.
Where do the people listening to us right now get the book? Right now, immediately. Where do they go? Amazon, or where do they
just
go?
They go to Amazon and order it. Yeah, the paperback, the ebook, Evangelicals at the Crossroads. He read it. He said, I'm voting for Trump. He said, but there are millions like me. They've got to read this book.
I agree. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. Thanks for writing and contributing to the stream. Thank you for everything you do. Thanks for your prayers and your friendship. God bless you, my friend.
My joy.